Okay, so our last lesson for the unit is basically, as usual, it's solving word problems. So we're going to put everything we learned into solving these word problems to see, because that's basically in real life, right? When you want to use mathematical models, they're not going to come and ask you what is like how do you solve this equation. It's going to be coming as a word problem. You just have to understand what math you're going to use to solve that word problem. So in this case, it's telling you that you have a grid that has been superimposed on the gateway arc in St. Louis. Find the equation that model the arc. Okay, so basically what they did is so this is the arc. I don't know if you guys see it here. So basically what they did is they put a grid, X and Y grid. They drew one, okay? And they're asking to find the equation of the arc, okay? Looking at that grid and that specific grid and that arc, what can you tell me about that quadratic function, that arc? Explain it to me. Like, tell me, what do you see? It's a parabola. It has a maximum value and has a reflection, right? That's right. So it's reflected, that means it's opening down, right? It has a maximum value, that's because it's opening down as well.
It does 0, 1, origin.
So the vertex is at the origin, that's right, right? So we see right here that the vertex is at the origin, which is 0, 0. Great. So I know it opens down. That means my A value, I'm expecting it to be positive or negative since it opens down. Negative, right? So when I solve for that A value, I'm expecting it to be negative. So it's asking you to find the equation that model this arc. So that means it's looking for the y equals ax minus h squared plus k, because I know the vertex. So since I know the vertex, I'm going to use the vertex format. What's the first thing I need to plug in? Yeah, that's the square. The h and the k. So what's the h and k? So I plug in 0, 0. Okay. What else do I plug in? The y and the x. So they gave me two values, right? 2 points on the grid, on the graph. So 3 and negative 4, or negative 3 and negative 4. It doesn't matter which one I use. It's going to give me the same answer, okay? So I'm going to plug in 3 and negative 4. So 3 is going to be for x, and negative 4 is going to be for y. So BEDMAS tells me I have to do the bracket first. So that's 3 minus 0 is 3. And then I can do the squared. So it's going to be negative 4 equals to 9a, right? I don't have to worry about that plus 0. It's not going to affect me, right? Adding a 0 is like doing nothing. What's my next step here? Divide by what? Divide by? I've already done the exponent. Divide by? 9, because you want to get rid of that 9 that's with the a. Okay? So you always divide by that value that's with the a. So that's going to be negative. So a is negative 4 over 9. So basically right now I'm done. I just have to put it into the equation, and I have to write down the equation. So that's y equals to what?
Y equals negative 4 over 9.
Uh-huh. Negative 4 over 9. Yep.
Bracket 3.
No. What did I say you have to put? It's x. Right? But technically, I don't have to write these zeros. These zeros are not going to affect my equation, right?
Just put x.
X squared, right? So that's going to be y equals negative 4 over 9 x squared, right? Because x minus 0 is still x, and then squared. You don't need the brackets, no. So that's your final answer. So you see how I'm solving the problem. So before I start solving the problem, number one, you're going to have to read it, and you're going to have to understand what the question's asking you. Okay? So the question's asking me to find an equation for the arc. So I understand that I have to find an equation that says y equals something x squared, right? Good. Now what's the second thing I did? I looked at my picture first, right? I looked at the picture that's given to me. I looked at the graph and I analyzed it. I looked at it. What am I supposed to see? It's opening down. That means my A has to be negative. So you analyze before you start doing the math, okay? We talked about where is the vertex located. We talked about what do we see. It's opening down. It has a max. So that means the A is going to be negative. So these are things that I am demonstrating this for you guys, not just because I like to talk. Because these are the things that you should be doing when you're solving any problem. You're going to read it. You're going to see what the question's asking you for. You're going to analyze it, right? What is given the what information they gave me? What do I know? And how do I solve it? Right now, we are focused on one topic and one thing only. But when it comes to the exam or in real life, there's too many things that you know. How do you pick the right thing? Is by looking at given, required, and then start solving. Does it make sense to you guys? That grasp that you see right here is not only for my grade 10s. This grasp is for every single level that you can think of. Every problem solving, if it's chemistry, if it's biology, if it's physics, if it's math. Anything that comes to solving problems, grasp, which is writing down the given information, writing down what's required, using the formula, plug it in and solve. So it's something that you should all read and you should all follow when you're doing a word problem. You don't have to write it down, but at least your brain should follow it. Okay, let's look at my second problem. So a football was kicked. Its path can be modeled by the relation h equals negative 0.1 d minus 8.7 squared plus 7.6, where h is the football's height above the ground and d is the horizontal distance from where the football was kicked, both in meters. What is the vertex of the parabola? So, do I just start solving, or what do I do first? Analyze. Look at what's given to me. Look at what these letters mean, because now I don't have x and y, I have d and h, right? So it's something different. So looking at the equation, what kind of equation is it? Is it linear? Is it quadratic? Is it nothing? I don't know. Quadratic because it has a degree of 2. So that kind of tells me that, okay, I'm dealing with quadratic. That means I'm dealing with a parabola shape, right? Something that's going to go either up and down or down and up. Okay? Now, another thing that you're going to think about is which way is it going? Is it going to go up and down? So is it going to open down or is it going to open up? That's my question. Open down because negative. Doesn't it make sense that when you're kicking a football, it's going to go up and then down? Right? It's going to open down. Makes sense, right? Okay, good. And then what are the letters that we're using? And what do they represent? What does H represent? The height of the ball, right? So basically, H is, so this is the ball. How high is the ball above the ground as it's moving up? So that's the height, right? That's the y-axis, okay? And then what does D represent? The distance from the kicker. So basically, when it lands, right, how far did it go? That's a distance, right? Horizontal distance. Good. So, now the question is saying, what is the vertex? Yeah, 8.7 and 7.6. Now, what does that mean? What does that mean that the vertex is 8.7, 7.6?
That's where the ball started to fall.
This is where the ball started to fall. So this is what do we call that instead of where the ball started to fall? What do we call that? No, not the origin. The vertex or the, give me another word for it. The max, right? In this case, it's the max, right? So it's the maximum point that that football reached. Okay? Now, question to you. The maximum point that this football reached, what's the height at that maximum point? What was the height at the maximum? 8.7. So this is your height. No, this is not your height. This is your horizontal distance. Right? This is your height. Because remember that your height is represented by h, which means it's your y value. Right? When you're talking about height, it's the y value. Okay? And then what would be the horizontal distance where it reached that height? 8.7. So that's the horizontal distance. Okay? So basically you're looking at 8.7 here, and you're looking at 7.6 right here as the height. All right. Now the next question is asking you, what is the initial height of the football? What does that mean? What does it mean by the initial height of the football? Sorry? The maximum height? Initial means what? What does the word initial mean? The starting point, right? Your initial means what are you starting with? So where was the ball, right? What was the ball's height when you started? So if I'm looking at, just don't draw this yet, okay? If I'm looking at my x and y, right? The ball is going to start at a point. This is your distance, and this is your height. The ball is going to start at a point, and then it's going to go up, and then go back down. Okay? What's the value of D, the distance from the kicker, at the beginning? So this is your initial. Right? How far is the ball away from me before I kick it? How far? This is the ball, and this is me. How far is the ball from me? It's 0, right? The distance between me and the ball is 0. I'm standing on the ball. My foot is touching the ball. Otherwise, I can't kick it, right? So that distance from me to the ball is what? 0. Now the ball doesn't have to be on the ground. The ball could be on my shoes, right? So it's not touching the ground. So if I want to find the height, I have to plug in what for D? 0, because that's when I'm touching it right now. Okay? So I have to plug in 0 for D, because initial means starting point. So ball touching the player, right? So the horizontal distance is 0. Bedmass tells me I have to do what first? Bracket. So 0 minus 8.7, what is that? That's minus 8.7, right? What's next? What do I have to do next? So I have to do negative 8.7 to the power of 2. What do you get when you do that? $75.69. Positive, right? Because negative squared is a positive. What do I do after the brackets? So I did brackets, then I did exponents. What do I do after that? Sorry, my mistake. Division or multiplication. In this case, I have multiplication, so I'm going to have to multiply 75.69 by negative 0.1. So it's going to be negative 7.569. And then I have to add 7.6 to it. And the answer is going to be 0.031 meters. Okay? So does it make sense that the height of the ball is very small above the ground? Right? Because I'm kicking it, right? So it's going to be on my leg, and my leg is going to be very close to the ground. Okay? So what do I know so far? What points do I know? The distance, which distance? The horizontal distance. I don't understand that. So there's 2 points that I know so far. What are they? What do we call this? The vertex, which is my max. Okay, I know that. And I know my initial point. So far I know 2 points. The initial and the max. Okay? So if I want to plot this, if I want to graph this, this is what I know so far. I'm just gonna instead of using this x, I'm gonna use this x right here. Sorry, the y value, I mean. The y axis, whatever it's called. And you know what? I'm going to, if you guys haven't drew that yet, don't draw it yet. Just to give it some more room. Okay, so I know that 8.7 is going to be, and 7.6, they're going to be where my vertex is. I know that 0 and 0.031, they're going to be where my initial is. So if I want to go like this, one, this doesn't like me. Okay. So that's going to be, I'm going to go up by 2. Oops, I made a mistake. I'm not going up by 2 anymore. 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. The maximum height I'm going to reach is 7.6. So I need about 2. I'm going to go up by 1. So you see how I'm planning my points? I'm planning this so I make sure that everything fits on my graph. So my initial point is going to be at 0 and 0.031. It's very hard to locate, so I'm going to put it right here close to the origin, but not at the origin, right? Because it's not, the ball is not on the ground. And then my next point is at 8.7 and 7.6. So 8.7 is going to be around here, and 7.6 is going to be around here. Okay, so this is my 9 right here. So 8.6 is right before the 9, or 8.7, sorry, is right before the 9. So I planned accordingly, and then 7.6 is closer to the 8. So this is where I put it. Now, I only have 2 points. Is this enough to draw a quadratic function? No. I need the third point at least. Okay? What do I know about a quadratic function? So I know the sept pattern is going to be very hard to use here because it's 0.1. But I know that this is my max, right? So it's going to go like this. And then what's going to happen to it after? It's going to go down, right? So if I'm going to go down, don't draw this yet. If I'm going to go down, where am I going to end? That's my question. Minus 0.1. Why? Because that's where your A value is. That's not going to affect where you're going to end. The ball can't go below the ground, right? The ball is going to stop when it lands on the ground. What do I know about a parabola? What can you tell me about a parabola? It's symmetrical, right? Symmetrical around which point? Axis of symmetry, which runs through the vertex, right? So that means from here to here, it's going to be exactly the same distance as from the axis to the end, right? So if I went 8.7, right, from the beginning to the vertex, then I have to go 8.7 from the middle to the end. Does it make sense? So it's from here to here is 8.7. Then from here to the end has to be 8.7. So if I'm going to add 8.7 to 8.7, that's 17.4. So that means it's going to be almost right here. okay? Because it has to have the same y value at 0.031. So that means my next point is going to be right here, and that point is going to be 17.4 and 0.031. This point here is 0.031. And that point right here is 8.7 and 7.6. Do we understand how we found the third point? The 17.4. You see how from the start to the middle it's 8.7? If I add another 8.7, so 8.7 and 8.7, if you add them, that gives you 17.4. Are we okay with that? Now the question is asking you, what does the vertex represent in terms of the football's path? The football had reached, right? Yeah.